I still remember the moment I stopped being a husband and became a stranger in my own marriage. It was a Tuesday evening. My wife Rachel was in the shower, humming the same tune she always did when she was getting ready for something she was excited about. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. I wasn't the kind of man who snooped 17 years of marriage had built a habit of trust. But that night, something felt wrong. That familiar sixth sense you can't explain. Only feel. The preview read, "Table confirmed at Bellamara, 7:30 p.m. Private booth per your request. He'll love it." I knew it wasn't me. I hadn't made dinner plans, and I certainly wasn't he. I unlocked the phone anniversary date. Of course, and just like that, my world changed. Messages, photos, plans. Not just an affair, an entire second life. My wife had booked a romantic dinner with another man, so I did the only thing that made sense. I booked the table next to theirs. What would you have done? Tell me if you discovered your spouse was meeting someone behind your back. Would you confront them on the spot, or wait until they're mid-toast to the future? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that go deeper than betrayal, only here on Revenge with Max. My name is David Hamilton. I'm 43 years old, a tenured professor of economics at UC San Diego. People think I have it all together. Steady career, nice home in La Jolla, stable marriage to a smart, successful woman. Rachel and I had been together for 17 years, married for 12, no kids by choice. We told people we were focused on our careers, our freedom. The truth is, we tried. It just never happened. We made peace with it. At least I thought we had. Rachel was a project manager at a top-tier architectural firm. She was sharp, polished, and had a way of making people feel like they were the most important person in the room. It's what drew me to her in the first place. I was the quiet one, the planner. She was the fire. Together we were balanced, or I believed we were. The last 6 months had been different, though. Rachel started working later. Weekend site visits, new clothes, new perfume, suddenly obsessed with beret classes and skincare routines. I joked she was getting ready to compete with the 20-somethings at her firm. She laughed it off. I should have seen it. Then I chalked up the distance between us to stress. Work deadlines, aging, the natural rhythm of a long-term relationship. But looking back, it wasn't distance. It was detachment. We still had dinner together most nights. We still went on walks around the neighborhood. But something about her presence had changed. Her eyes didn't linger. Her laugh didn't land. Conversations became transactional, like we were colleagues living in the same house managing logistics. One Thursday evening, she mentioned she had an important client dinner the following Tuesday. Big proposal, high-value client. She said she sounded rehearsed. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Tuesday came. I'd just gotten home from campus, grading final papers. Rachel was upstairs singing in the shower. Her phone was on the nightstand screen up. It lit up a soft, cheerful chime. At first, I didn't think twice. But then I saw the name TH, not a coworker I recognized. Then the message table confirmed at Bellamara. 7:30, private booth per your request. He'll love it. There was no client. There was no presentation, just dinner. At one of the most romantic restaurants in the city, with someone who wasn't me. I know what people might say. Why did you check her phone? Why not just ask her? Because something primal inside me already knew the answer. And I needed proof. I picked up the phone, entered our anniversary, unlocked. There it all was. The entire affair in living color. Weeks, no months of messages, photos, restaurant receipts, weekend trips labeled as industry retreats. Notes like, tell him you're going to San Jose for the conference. I'll get the Airbnb. His name was Troy Harris, architect, handsome, married too. And not just that, he was a contractor on a project Rachel's firm had recently awarded. Their affair had started during a late-night planning session and quickly turned into something deeper. They weren't just cheating. They were planning. I sat there, phone in hand, heart hammering so loud I thought she might hear it from the shower. All I could do was stare. 17 years of birthdays, moving cities, health scares, shared Netflix passwords, inside jokes, the smell of her shampoo on our pillows. And now this. I didn't wake her. I didn't scream. I didn't demand answers, because I knew one thing for certain: if I asked, she would lie, and I wasn't ready to hear it. So I did what I'd always done. I stayed calm. I waited. I needed time to think, time to plan, but I also knew this: when someone betrays you that deeply, you don't just ask why. You ask what? Now the next morning I kissed Rachel on the cheek as she sipped her coffee and scrolled through emails. "Good luck with your dinner tonight," I said, keeping my voice even. She smiled, not meeting my eyes. "Thanks, it's a high-profile one." "Late night," probably, I nodded. "I'll be out too. Department happy hour, a lie for a lie." After she left, I sat in the quiet kitchen watching her untouched toast grow cold. I'd taken the day off from campus, canceled office hours, I needed space. Silence time to see clearly. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I wanted her to show me who she really was when she thought I was still blind. I opened her laptop. Same passcode. It was all there. Emails to Troy, thinly veiled under project updates, calendar invites labeled with vague initials. Hotel confirmations, one in particular, stood out: a two-night stay in Big Sur. During the same weekend, she told me she was in Seattle for a women's leadership summit. Then I saw something else: Troy Harris. I recognized the name because just last year, he and I had shaken hands at Rachel's company mixer. He'd complimented our backyard renovation, told me Rachel had mentioned how hard I'd worked on the design. I remember thinking, he seems like a good guy. Turns out he was just rehearsing. I searched his name on social media. His profile was clean, but his wife Elena was a photographer. Public posts. She had a warm smile, earthy style, and a small business she ran out of a converted studio space in North Park. I found myself scrolling through her photos, her husband occasionally appearing in behind-the-scenes candids, always arms around her, always smiling. I nearly called her, nearly sent the screenshots. But something held me back. Not yet. They were expecting lies, panic, screaming matches. That's what cheaters expect: chaos, so they can control the narrative, make you look unstable while they play the calm voice of reason. But what they never expect is precision. I picked up the phone and called Bellamera. The hostess was polite, cheerful. Yes, she said, a table at 7:30 was still available for that evening. And yes, there was indeed a private booth reserved under Troy's name. Could I request a specific table? Certainly, she said. The one adjacent to booth 3 was open. Lovely corner view. Great for a romantic dinner or a quiet meeting. Perfect. I gave her my name. Then I opened a new browser tab and went to Elena Harris's photography website. As a professor, I'd occasionally hosted guest speakers, entrepreneurs, creatives for our graduate students. I'd even featured a local architect last year for a talk on sustainable design that gave me an idea. I drafted an email under my university account. Polite professional. I told her I admired her work and would love to discuss the possibility of her speaking to my class about the intersection of creativity and small business growth. It wouldn't be formal, just dinner, a chance to talk ideas. I had a reservation that night at Bellamara. Would she be available? She replied 2 hours later. Warm, interested, grateful for the invitation, said she'd be honored. That was it. In less than 6 hours, the chessboard was set. 2 people living a lie. 2 people walking unknowingly into the center of their betrayal, and 2 of us betrayed, discarded, underestimated, now seated just a table away. It wasn't about making a scene. It wasn't about revenge. In the dramatic sense, I didn't want Rachel to scream or Troy to sweat bullets under candlelight. I just wanted them to feel what I'd felt. The shock, the helplessness, the realization that everything they thought was hidden had been quietly watched piece by piece. I dressed simply: navy blazer, crisp white shirt, same one I wore when Rachel and I renewed our vows on our 10th anniversary. She loved that shirt. I arrived at the restaurant early. Bellamara was everything I remembered: dim lighting, quiet jazz, wine shelves lining the walls. I checked in with the hostess. She smiled and led me to my table. From there, I had a perfect view of booth 3, and now all that was left was to wait. At 7:12 p.m., I saw him arrive. Troy Harris, tailored blazer, no tie, confident smile. He walked in like he belonged there, which of course he thought he did. I watched as he greeted the hostess by name. She led him to booth 3. He adjusted his cufflinks, checked his phone, looked relaxed. At 7:21 p.m., Rachel walked in. I hadn't seen her look like that in years. Hair swept to the side, burgundy dress. Lipstick just a touch darker than usual. She scanned the restaurant like she expected to be admired. And when she saw him, Troy, her whole face changed. Lit up, she smiled the smile I hadn't seen since our second honeymoon in Barcelona. My stomach clenched. She walked over. He stood, kissed her on the cheek, lingering a second longer than necessary. She laughed, effortless, full-bodied. Real, I hadn't heard her laugh like that. In our home, and I couldn't even remember when, and still I didn't move. I didn't speak. I simply watched from 20 feet away, invisible, until 7:33 p.m. That's when Elena arrived. She was even more radiant in person and than in her photographs. Simple black dress, warm smile, calm grace. She looked around, spotted me, and made her way over. "Professor Hamilton," she asked, extending her hand. I stood. "Please call me David." Her handshake was gentle but firm. "Thank you for inviting me. This place is beautiful." "Not as beautiful as your work," I replied, gesturing for her to sit. "I've been following your studio's growth for a while. I thought our students could really learn from your perspective." She smiled, flattered, and the waitress brought over menus. We were two polite strangers, talking about art, business, creativity, but my mind kept drifting. At booth 3, Rachel and Troy were now sharing appetizers. His hand rested on the table, palm up. Hers slid across, resting gently in his. Intimate, comfortable, rehearsed. I barely heard Elena ask, "And how long have you been teaching?" 17 years. I said automatically, "Same number of years I've been married." I almost added. Instead, I turned my glass slowly, watched the light catch the stem, focused on the sound of her voice, the clink of silverware, the ambient jazz, until I saw Rachel rise from the table and head toward the restroom. This was the moment I excused myself. Elena nodded, sipping her wine. Unaware, I walked casually across the room as Rachel stepped out of the restroom, her heels clicking on the tile. Our eyes met, and for the first time in this entire farce, she looked truly afraid. Her mouth parted slightly, her entire face froze. I stepped into her path. "Hi, Rach." She blinked, swallowed. "David, You're early," I said, calm and low. "But don't worry, I got here first." Her eyes darted toward booth 3, then back to mine. She was calculating fast, like a child trying to fix a broken vase before anyone notices the pieces. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I understand plenty. You followed me." "No, I said, I just finally started paying attention." She opened her mouth again, but I held up a hand. "Table 4, come by when you're ready. I think Elena would love to meet you." Her face drained of color. "You didn't." "Oh, I did." I turned and walked away, feeling her panic thicken the air behind me. When I returned to the table, Elena was watching me with a curious expression. "Everything okay? Just someone I used to know." I said, sitting down, but the illusion didn't last. Within seconds, I felt the shift. Troy was looking over. He recognized me. His eyes narrowed. Rachel had told him who I was, but not that I'd be here, and definitely not who I was with. Then Elena followed his gaze. Her eyes landed on booth 3. Her brow furrowed. Her gaze shifted from Troy to Rachel, back to me. "David," she said slowly, her voice almost trembling, "why is my husband holding hands with your wife?" And that was it, the moment. No denials, no more pretending. Just silence, stillness, truth. The kind of truth that doesn't need to be spoken to be understood. I looked at her, really looked at her, and said quietly, "I thought you deserved to see it for yourself." Elena's face had gone blank, a stunned, almost robotic kind of stillness. She stared across the restaurant, eyes fixed on Troy, then on Rachel. She didn't blink, didn't breathe, and neither did I. "Would you like to switch tables?" I asked softly. "Or would you rather finish your wine?" She turned to me. "How long have you known 3 days?" I said I found the messages on Rachel's phone. Elena gave a small, bitter laugh. "Troy's been pulling away for months, always an excuse. Deadlines, conferences. I thought I was paranoid." "You weren't." I said. "They just got careless." She looked back again, just in time to catch Rachel returning to booth 3. My wife was flustered. Her movements, sharp, rehearsed confidence gone. She leaned toward Troy, whispering something. Troy turned pale. His eyes darted across the room, met mine, then landed on Elena, and I watched the moment his fantasy cracked. Elena stood, Would you like to join them? I asked. She shook her head. I'd like to ruin them. So we did. I flagged the waitress and asked very politely if we might be moved to a more private space, somewhere quieter, away from the main floor. Within minutes, we were led to a side room, elegant, soundproofed, a table set for four. I told the hostess we'd be joined shortly by two more guests. Troy and Rachel watched from their booth. Confused, nervous, Rachel started to rise, then sat back down. Troy grabbed the bill. They whispered, argued, then finally stood together. I saw the hesitation in Rachel's body language. Every step toward us was a struggle. Her world, her control was collapsing. They entered the private room. Rachel spoke first. David, what is this? I gestured to the empty chairs across from us. A conversation. Elena folded her hands in front of her. You two thought you were being clever. Troy stayed silent. Jaw clenched, Rachel looked like she was seconds from tears. We weren't trying to hurt you, Rachel said, voice cracking. That's the problem, I said. You weren't thinking about us at all. Elna stared at her husband. How long? Troy opened his mouth. Closed it. How long? She repeated. He exhaled. 10 months. I leaned back. According to Rachel's email, the first hotel stay was 11 months ago. Rachel turned sharply. You read my email. I laughed, quiet, bitter. I read every email, every text, every hotel receipt you tried to bury, every message where you told him, he'll never suspect a thing, David's too busy grading papers to notice. The silence in the room became its own kind of noise. Then Rachel whispered, this was all a setup. No, I said calmly, this was a reveal. Troy looked at Elena. It didn't mean anything. She shook her head slowly. Oh, it meant something. Just not what you think. I made a mistake. No, she interrupted. You made a series of choices, every text, every dinner, every time you came home and kissed me goodnight. With her still on your breath, that wasn't a mistake. That was a decision. Rachel looked at me. David, do you want to fix this? Please, we've built a life together. I stared at her. Really looked. The woman who used to hold my hand in movie theaters, who once fell asleep reading beside me on long flights. The woman who now sat across from me begging for forgiveness. Not because she was sorry, but because she was caught. I pulled a hotel key card from my coat pocket and slid it across the table. I won't be sleeping at home tonight. Don't worry, it's just one night. By the time I come back, I expect you to be gone. Rachel's lip trembled. You're kicking me out. No, I said evenly. You walked out the moment you chose someone else. Troy stood. This is insane. We can talk this through. Elena stood too. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Then she turned to me. Thank you, David. I gave a small nod. Before I left, I placed Rachel's phone on the table screen. Unlocked thread of messages with Troy already open. I leaned in close, quiet enough that only she could hear. I've already sent copies to your firm's ethics committee, sleeping with an external contractor on an active project. That's going to be a fun HR conversation. Her face went white. Then I straightened up, took my coat, and walked out of that room without looking back. Because the moment you see the truth so clearly, you never go back to the lie. The walk out of Bellamara felt surreal. The cool night air hit my face, but I barely noticed. My body moved on, autopilot shoulders, square breath, steady. But inside, something deeper was unraveling. A quiet grief wrapped in clarity. I didn't look back. Not at Rachel. Not at Troy. Not at the wreckage they'd created and now had to sit in. I handed my valet ticket to the attendant. A few feet away, Elena stood waiting for her own car. Her eyes were glassy, but her back was straight. We didn't speak, didn't need to. When my car pulled up, I paused. Elena, I said softly. She looked over. If you ever want to talk, really talk, you know where to find me. She gave a tight smile. I might take you up on that. I nodded, then drove off. The hotel was across the street. The Grand Kelsey I'd checked in earlier. Left a small bag in the room. I took the elevator to the 10th floor, keycard in hand. Body numb. Once inside, I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't scroll my phone. I just sat. Sat with the silence. Sat with the reality. 17 years of love, of what I thought was love, dissolved over one dinner and a sea of lies. And the strangest part, I didn't feel rage. I felt relief, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't even know was there. And someone finally lifted it off me. I don't know how long I sat there, suit of still on, shoes still tight, until the tears came. Not loud, not explosive, just steady. Slow cleansing. I cried for the man I'd been. The husband who trusted too easily. The man who thought loyalty alone could hold a marriage together. I cried until the tears stopped, until my chest stopped aching. Then I stood up, took a hot shower, changed into a clean t-shirt, ordered room service, and slept. For the first time in months, I really slept. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 8:14 a.m. Rachel missed call. Then another text. David, please, we need to talk. Come home. I turned the phone off and let the silence answer for me. At noon, she showed up at the hotel front desk, called up. I told them to tell her I wasn't available. They said she waited in the lobby for over an hour, eventually left. That night, she tried again. This time, she brought flowers. The same kind she used to buy me every year on our anniversary, white lilies. But the smell made me nauseous now. I didn't come down. Didn't even look out the window. Monday morning, I returned home. Rachel wasn't there. The closet was half empty. Her perfume no longer lingered in the hall. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. I'll be at my sister's. I'm sorry. Please don't give up on us. There was no apology, no accountability, just fear. Fear of losing the comfort, the security, the image. I threw the note in the trash and changed the locks that afternoon. In the weeks that followed, Rachel tried everything. Voicemails, emails, messages through mutual friends. She swore it was over with Troy. She swore it was just emotional at first and that he meant nothing. She asked for therapy, said we could rebuild. But you can't rebuild on a foundation that was never solid to begin with. I told her we were done. She didn't take it well. She cried, then raged, then tried to guilt me. You're throwing away everything we built. No, I told her. You threw it away. I'm just walking away from the wreckage. Troy lost his contract with Rachel's firm. Apparently, the ethics committee didn't love the idea of a project manager sleeping with a lead architect on an active bid. HR had to step in. There were meetings, investigations. Rachel didn't get fired, but she was quietly pushed off the project. Reputation bruised. Troy's wife, Elena, filed for divorce within a month. She moved her studio to a new space across town. I sent flowers to congratulate her on the grand opening. She replied with a handwritten thank you note. Inside it, she'd written, "Truth is ugly, but it sets us free." She wasn't wrong. It's been 11 months since that night at Bellamara. A year ago, I thought my life was stable, predictable, safe. I also thought my wife loved me. Now I know better. But that doesn't mean I'm broken. In fact, I've never felt more whole. I finalized the divorce quietly with no public drama. Rachel tried to hold on through lawyers, through guilt, through nostalgia, but the truth was already out. And once truth breathes, it doesn't go back into hiding. She moved to Seattle shortly after I heard from a mutual friend that things didn't work out with Troy. Surprise, surprise. As for me, I'm still teaching, still living in the same house, but it feels different, now lighter. More mine and Elena. We kept in touch. At first, it was just coffee. Shared stories, laughs that turned into longer conversations, late walks by the harbor. We weren't rushing anything, just healing together. I remember something she said one night sitting on a park bench overlooking the bay. I didn't just lose a husband that night, I lost my illusions. And weirdly, I'm grateful. I understood. Because when someone you love betrays you, it changes you. It makes you sharper, quieter, stronger. You learn to stop begging for loyalty from people who treat it like an option. You learn that peace is more valuable than appearances, and most of all, you learn that losing someone who lies to your face is not really a loss. It's the first honest gift they've ever given you. I don't know what the future holds for me and Elena. We haven't labeled anything, but we both know what not to settle for now. That night at the restaurant could have destroyed me. Instead, it became the night I stopped living in someone else's shadow. Sometimes betrayal isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of your freedom.